The lake house became a mirror, reflecting the quiet parts of myself I had spent years silencing. Mornings were slow. Coffee, mist off the water, emails that felt like proof of stability. But sometimes, when the wind rose over the lake, I'd catch myself glancing at the empty chair on the deck, wondering who I would have been if someone had ever stayed long enough to see me. Work became my anchor. The firm thrived under my new strategy, and Lawrence mentioned a possible VP role by year's end. Yet with every success came a faint unease, a question that whispered louder in solitude: was freedom the same as belonging? By November, the cottage had become a ritual retreat. I spent weekends sanding shelves, painting walls, pretending the quiet was enough. Ivy visited often, trying to fill it with laughter. But one Saturday night, as we sat by the fire, she asked gently, "Do you ever miss them?" I wanted to say no. Instead, I said, "I miss the version of them I used to hope for." That same week, an email arrived from my mother. Polite. Distant. "Your father's health isn't good. He's been asking for you. Maybe it's time." For a long moment, I stared at the screen. Then I closed the laptop. But the words followed me through the next day's meetings, through the drive home, through the quiet of my house that suddenly felt too large. By midnight, I found myself searching old photos, my father younger, laughing, before the distance hardened him. I realized that even after all this time, part of me still wanted him to see me, not as the daughter who refused, but as the woman who finally built something of her own. When the phone rang a week later, the hospital on the caller ID, I didn't hesitate. He looked smaller in the hospital bed, skin pale against the sterile sheets, his breath shallow but steady. My mother sat beside him, her pearls replaced by exhaustion. For a moment, she didn't even recognize me. "Maris," she whispered finally. "He asked for you." I stood at the foot of the bed, unsure whether to speak or to weep. He opened his eyes briefly, the same steel gray I'd inherited. "You bought the lake house," he rasped. I nodded. "Good," he said. "About time you built something that's yours." The words struck harder than any reprimand ever had. He reached for my hand, not in affection, but in acknowledgement. Then he slept again. For days, I stayed, helping with discharge papers, managing their bills. My mother spoke in soft sentences, testing the edges of something fragile between us. One evening, while I made tea, she said, "You've done well, Maris." I didn't say it enough. It was the first apology I'd ever heard from her. And yet, even as I listened, I felt another current pulling, a truth I hadn't wanted to face. Their approval, when it finally arrived, felt like an echo of something I no longer needed. The next morning, as I left their house, I saw a file open on my father's desk. His will. My brother's name highlighted beside every major asset. My own line, blank. A lifetime reduced to omission. I closed the folder quietly. That night, back at the lake, I poured myself a drink and let the silence break. The lesson was clear: some people only love you when you remain small. Winter wrapped the lake in silence. I worked, I hosted, I smiled, but something inside had shifted. The illusion of reconciliation was gone, replaced by something sharper: purpose. Horizon PR had just landed a major account, a rebranding for a national charity. Lawrence wanted me to lead it. The catch: the foundation's biggest donor was my father. The irony wasn't lost on me. The first meeting took place in the Elwood boardroom, the same one where he'd once dismissed my ambitions. When he entered, slower now, cane in hand, he froze at the sight of me at the head of the table. "Ms. Elwood," the chairman said, "will you walk us through the campaign plan?" My father's gaze held mine for a long beat. Then he nodded. I spoke clearly, each slide a small reclamation. No tremor in my voice, no hesitation. When the meeting ended, he lingered behind as the others filed out. "You've done well," he said quietly. "Your mother's proud." "I'm proud too," I replied. "But not because of your approval. Something in his expression cracked, a flash of regret, quickly buried. He nodded once, turned, and left. That night, as snow drifted over the lake, I stood by the window thinking of all the years I'd wasted asking to be seen. Maybe the truth was simpler: you don't wait for mirrors to reflect you. You build your own light. The gala was held in March, Horizon's biggest event of the year. Guests in sequins and tuxedos, champagne catching the glow of chandeliers. My campaign for the charity had just broken records. Cameras flashed, journalists hovered. Halfway through the evening, Lawrence approached me. "They want you to speak," he said. As I stepped to the podium, I saw them, my parents, seated near the front, my brother beside them. For a heartbeat, the old ache returned. Then I exhaled and began. "I used to think success was about being seen," I said. "But sometimes, the truest recognition is silence, the kind that follows when you finally stop asking for permission to exist." Applause rippled through the hall, but my gaze stayed fixed on my parents. My mother was crying. My father, for once, didn't look away. Afterward, as guests mingled, he approached me slowly. "You've made us proud," he said. "No," I corrected gently. "I've made myself proud." He smiled faintly. "That's better." When I left the gala, the night air tasted like victory, not over them, but over the version of myself that once waited at the window for headlights that never came. Spring returned to the lake with quiet confidence. The trees shimmered green again, and the water mirrored a sky wide enough to hold everything I'd become. The cottage felt different now, not an escape, but a foundation. My life no longer orbited around absence. It expanded from within. One evening, Ivy brought over her new partner, and we ate on the deck as dusk turned to gold. "You look lighter," she said. "I am," I told her. I stopped trying to rewrite the past. I just built a new chapter. Later, when everyone left, I sat alone with the quilt across my lap, the lake murmuring softly. My phone buzzed, a new message from my brother. "Dad's retiring. He wants you to take his seat on the foundation board. Says it should have been yours all along." I smiled, setting the phone aside. The offer wasn't about power, it was about peace. When I stepped onto the deck, the wind carried the scent of lilacs. I closed my eyes, letting it wash through me. For years, I had mistaken survival for strength. But this quiet, this choice, this self-built life, was something purer. Freedom wasn't the absence of pain. It was the ability to walk through it and still open the door when the light returned. As night deepened, I lit a single candle on the table. No cake, no audience. Just me, and the reflection of its flame trembling across the water, proof that I had finally learned to celebrate myself.